I think you guys know that President Trump just came out earlier. Let me actually read his post, two important posts, saying, I had a very productive call with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu of Israel, and there will be no troops going to Beirut, and any troops that are underway have already been turned back. Likewise, through highly placed representatives, I had a very good call with Hezbollah, and they agreed that all shooting will stop, that Israel would not attack them, and they will not attack Israel. President Donald J. Trump. By the way, 10 minutes after this, Hezbollah started attacking. 10 minutes after this. It took 10 minutes. And then President Trump also had another post saying, very short post, saying, talks are continuing at a rapid pace with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Just to, the, that was the shortest one I've seen for a long time. So one thing that so there are two sides to this: people who are for President Trump and people who are against President Trump. The people who are against President Trump are saying that President Trump doesn't understand Hezbollah, he doesn't understand Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Islamic Republic. He's talking to them. He doesn't understand that these people are lying all the time. He's negotiating with them. He doesn't. He's stopping the Israelis. Israelis were doing so good in Lebanon, destroying Hezbollah. He's stopping them again, like he always does. Every time it's getting good with Israel, destroying terrorists. All of a sudden, Trump comes and stops it, thinking that you could negotiate with these fuckers. And that's the and the fact that the Hezbollah just violated that shows that, like, yeah, President Trump doesn't understand that you can't talk to terrorists. So that's the anti-Trump position. The pro-Trump position is that President Trump has been here before. He's playing good cop, bad cop, with Israel being the bad cop. He did exactly this before before the 12-day war, before the Operation Epic Fury. He basically uses Israel's aggression as a way to try to suggest the Islamic Republic that, hey, if you get maximum surrender from the terrorists by telling them that, oh, if you don't, you better you better be flexible with me, because if you're not flexible with me, like, these Israelis are going to be coming at you, and there's no stopping them. I'm the only one that could stop them, so you better give me what I want, or else I'm not going to be able to stop them, right? And then they play good cop, bad cop, but then all of a sudden, when they get what they want from the Islamic Republic, then it becomes bad cop, worst cop, with the United States being the worst cop, right? That's what people say. And then and also another pro-Trump position is that all of these mind games, all of these negotiations, ceasefire, saying like, oh, these are good people, we're negotiating with them, and there's ups and downs, has worked in all of the division, the confusion, the infighting, the instability, the political damage to the Islamic Republic, has worked very effectively um, in basically destroying the political stability of the Islamic Republic on all its proxies, and that is as important, if not more important, than the military damages that America and Israel do to the Islamic Republic, right? Also, I think Israel already knew that this is coming. One reason why Israel was doing maximum aggression against Hezbollah is because they knew that they have a short time before President Trump comes and says this. So they wanted to just make sure that they could get as far in as possible before this happens. So the fact that the Israelis predicted that this is going to happen showed that there's alignment here. Like, it's not like this came out of nowhere for the Israelis. So there's that. So that's on the Lebanon update. On the Islamic Republic update, obviously we already talked about the Pezeshkian resignation and all of the implications of that. But one thing I wanted to add to all the list of divisions that I have discussed here with you guys, that signs of division within the Islamic Republic, is this new theory that I have, is that Ghalibaf is actually working with Trump selling at IRGC. I think Ghalibaf is being used by President Trump to basically identify and strategize against the IRGC, right? And I think that indirectly, so on one side right now, the power dynamics within the Islamic Republic is that Ghalibaf and the office of the supreme leadership are on one side, against Vahidi and Jafari on the other side. That's what's happening. And the basically debate is interesting because the office of the supreme leadership is uniting with Ghalibaf, which I think is uniting with Trump. So indirectly, the the office of the supreme leadership is indirectly working with President Trump against IRGC. So we have three power sources right now. One is IRGC. One is this new unity. The IRGC, when I say IRGC, we have to be more specific because there's parts of IRGC that is loyal to Ghalibaf. There are parts of IRGC that is loyal to the supreme leadership. So instead of saying IRGC, it's better to say the new Vahidi Jafari alliance. So we have the Vahidi Jafari alliance is trying to finalize the coup against the mullah, against the office, the supreme leadership, basically finalizing getting the Islamic Republic from a theocracy to a military dictatorship is now being done with the leadership of Vahidi and Jafari. And the supreme leadership office is trying to resist against that takeover, and they have completely abandoned trying to basically be given to the Paidari type camp ideology, because now the supreme leader, so-called, like, I mean, the people who are speaking on behalf of the supreme leader or the supreme leader, they are now very transparent that with their endorsement of Ghalibaf. That means that they have said fuck it about like being purely anti-American and anti-Israeli. The greatest threat to us right now is the IRGC, and we need to resist their complete takeover. So that's why you can see the Paidari camp being more aggressive against the supreme leadership, because the supreme leadership has given up trying to submit to their demands. So that's why it's making them more aggressive. Work, and I know this because getting endorsing Ghalibaf means that we don't care about what the pro-regime Iranian people are concerned about in the streets. We care about the IRGC more. That's a bigger threat to us, right? And given how much the threat of IRGC versus the Ghalibaf Mujtaba camp is a big deal, this is and given how low of a military power the Ghalibaf and Mujtaba have against IRGC, I think they are relying on US. They're basically indirectly, the military power that they're relying on is US military power. This is really weird. I think that Mushtaba Khamenei is right now relying on US military power to save him against the IRGC takeover through Ghalibaf, right? Um, which is which is crazy. But I genuinely think that this is what's happening. And also, I don't think that it will work because there's this thing called the Iranian people, and if the IRGC collapses, at the end of the day, there's no. So imagine. So we should actually right now be on the side of Ghalibaf and Mushtaba. We should be rooting for that team, because IRGC winning this battle means that the force that suppresses the Iranian people stands. The Ghalibaf supreme leader side winning this will be the collapse of IRGC. So if Ghalibaf is working with President Trump to identify and help take out the IRGC, so Ghalibaf sell to the Trump is that, everything you want, the obstacle in my way to give you the things you want is IRGC. So help me help you remove the obstacle in my path, and you pick me as the main leader, and the one that is immune. Like, you basically put me on a no-kill list with the Israelis and keep me safe against the IRGC, and I will give you everything you need if you could just help take out the IRGC people that I'm identifying for you out, right? So at the end of the day, if this is what's happening, the winner is the Iranian people and Israel and United States, because if Ghalibaf and Trump are successful in taking out IRGC and basically removing their power, then we're going to have Ghalibaf is going to be the leader of a surrender period, because then there's nothing protecting him against the Iranian people. and then eventually that would lead to the total collapse of the Islamic Republic. IRGC, Haidari, Ghalibaf, and the supreme leadership, all of it will fall. Our main obstacle is the IRGC. The supreme leadership, Ghalibaf, and the Haidari camp are not going to be able to stop the Iranian people. The IRGC can stop the Iranian people. So that's why we should be rooting for the side that can't stop the Iranian people, which is the Ghalibaf camp, right? So that's the update. I don't know if anybody wanted to comment on this, but this is what I think is happening.
Yes. So first up to respond, we have Guy.
Okay, I don't have a strong opinion, but I'll give you some updates from the Israeli side on the issue of Lebanon. First of all, Netanyahu is getting absolutely hammered by everyone, from the right and from the left. And Jewish Samantha is celebrating this. The idea that is being spread is that essentially Israel is a proxy state, has no independence, and when Trump says jump, we say how high, and specifically Netanyahu. So as far as like optics, it looks really bad. However, and it also looks bad that like, okay, I guess Trump is really desperate that Iran would not leave the negotiation table. So that's as far as the surface level optics go. As it would appear, first of all, there were no troops on their way to Beirut, and no troops were meant to go to Beirut, unless he means like the planes. But apparently the deal is as follows. Hezbollah stops firing at IDF soldiers completely, like with no caveats, and Israel, in exchange, does not strike the Dakhia in Beirut, or doesn't strike Beirut in general. But that's the deal. So like everything that isn't Beirut is open season. And apparently the Minister of Security has announced that the destruction of Shiite villages that have been used for the installation of terror infrastructure and or hiding munitions and so on, that will continue. It is not clear whether Israel would be allowed to advance beyond the current point as a result. But Israel has been attacked by FPVs like continuously for a while now, and it's very possible that being able to get a ceasefire from Lebanon would be a very good tool, because everyone is like scrambling to find a technological solution to the FPV problem, and they're working like by the day to find at least like like a stopgap thing before they actually develop the big thing. And some say that this same type of strategy, like assuming this is coordinated, which I'm like 50-50 on, but this same type of strategy allegedly was used with Qatar to get Hamas to give up the hostages. So Israel said, we're going into Gaza City, and Israel bombed Hamas leaders in Qatar, and Trump said, no, you can't do that, and offered Qatar a defense pact. And a few days later, Hamas agreed to the deal to release all the hostages, which no one thought was ever possibly going to happen. Everyone was shocked by this. So it's hard, like this sort of rhymes with that. It seems like the statements are Trump is, stopping us and so on, and not deriding us, but making us seem small. And he himself also looks small in this case. But as far as the facts on the ground, if Hezbollah actually stops firing and we get like, I don't know how long, but a week or 2 weeks or whatever to get the technological solutions going, this is actually really good long term.
So you think the attacks on Netanyahu is unfair?
I don't know. Historically, Netanyahu and Trump have been way more on the same page than they let everyone believe. It's hard to say. Like, it looked really, really bad for the first like 30 minutes to an hour. Now it looks much better. Like when I came in pissed, and I was going to say this doesn't look good for what Trump is intending to do, like with Iran and how much he's willing to capitulate to get them to stay at the table. Now I am not of that opinion anymore. I'm 50-50.
And what changed your mind exactly? Like, what was the main thing that changed your mind?
The conditions of the ceasefire. It's not that Israel is not permitted to attack in Lebanon and in exchange, or in to advance in Lebanon, and in exchange, the regime isn't leaving the negotiation table, but rather Israel is not attacking the Dahia, which it didn't do, but it keeps not attacking the Dahia. And in exchange, Hezbollah ceases fire completely over Israel. And a few minutes before this announcement, we have now, for the record, they did fire a couple minutes later, but you can imagine that such a command would take a little while to trickle down. But other than that, like a few minutes before that, we had an announcement of another soldier who died due to FPVs. So in Lebanon. So if that stops and gives us some breathing room to actually come up with the technological solution, that would be really good.
What is the technological solution? Like, can you explain that?
No one knows, but there are nets. People use nets to stop FPVs, but there have been continuous meetings over the last like month and a half for between Netanyahu and several tech leaders, or not tech, like security tech leaders, in order to get them to come up with something. And presumably it's going to be something that can be developed short term, as opposed to, we'll need to develop a long-term solution eventually. BT is giving me the eyes, and I'm going to stop now, but okay. they're looking for at least a short-term solution.
Okay, so FPVs, for people who don't know, are smaller drones. All right.
Okay, all right. Next up to respond, we have Nail Bunny.
Hopefully you can hear me because it's raining really hard here. I just had a quick one just to ask Armin about, because you were talking about Ghalibaf and what you thought was sort of going on there. And it struck me that it's very strange to see Trey Yingst say that Ghalibaf was a moderate. And I wondered if perhaps they know that the Islamic regime watches US media, because they talk amongst themselves about how everybody's abandoning him and MAGA's, they talk about it themselves, about what's going on in America. And they have these ideas that they're going to wait it out and the midterms and all this stuff. So they know that they watch. I know they watch. So they definitely know they watch. And I just was wondering if there's even maybe a possibility that this is an actual disinformation move, because Trey knows what he's talking about. He's no idiot. He knows he's not a moderate.
Well, I do. Yeah, well, here's the thing. I could speak more about the Islamic Republic than what Trey knows or doesn't know. I do know it's a habit in Western media, even if they are more aware, to just categorize things in the way that is normal. It's just Trey, for example, keeps saying like, "Oh, Iran, Iran, Iran," every time he's talking about the Islamic Republic, right? So these are just things that these people, the way that they talk about. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right, but I also know that we tend to overestimate how much people that we like know about things, right? So many times I see people say like, "Oh, this is a very trusted source," and then I know that, like, well, like I've seen wrong information from them, right? Sometimes when people's like, "Oh, trust me, this is a trusted source," I'm like, I don't know about that, right? So I think Trey knows more than most people, but I don't know. You could be correct. But I also think that we can't be sure. There's many people in Western media who are even on our side, and have better information than other people, but sometimes they miscategorize things. And I know is we want them to, we don't want to believe that about them, but it's true. It's okay. It's okay for I mean, if they're wrong, it's not like the end, like it's not that big of a deal, right? It's not that big of a deal. But I don't know if there's a mind. I don't think like for profit media companies are trying to, their goal is to put help, as trick the Islamic Republic or anything like that, right? I think they have their own agenda based on their demographic viewer. They're trying to get the most views based on the demographic of the population that watches them. That's their main agenda. So I don't think it's likely that they're participating in something like that. But yeah, but you might be right. I don't know.
I can say that for like the D-Day landings, that there was deliberate misinformation, and the journalists did not report things that they knew were happening.
Yeah, I mean,
And
sometimes you get a government.
That's American media not reporting things.
That's
so
different.
that
That's different.
American
Sometimes governments do contact news organizations and tell them that we have a direct request that you're silent about this, right? But putting out misinformation, there is something else. But I have seen many times people that have really, really good information about things to just be wrong about this or this, different things, right? Like I don't know, like CENTCOM constantly saying the Arabian Gulf, right? I mean, I love CENTCOM, right? But they say the Arabian Gulf all the fucking time, right? So there's that, right? Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes people who have good information just get something wrong. They're not saints. They're not saints. They're not going to be able to get. They're not going to be 100% correct all the time. And yeah. Anyways, I also usually go with the most simplest explanation. So and I think like just people just getting things wrong is usually the most simple explanation. Sorry, BT. Go.
Okay, next up to respond, we have Sketch.
I'm really enjoying this game of Durka, this Imperial Sith remnant after Palpatine gets bombed to the crap in his little Death Star bunker. I think I would like to know more about what it takes, how much division does there need to be before the government can be declared null, and it starts to be a transitional government being recognized outside of Iran. I think that's a big step. I think it might happen. It's more likely than a deal. Far more likely than a deal. So I'd love to know more about that. I know there's people here that might know more about that than me, because I know these things have happened before. I think it happened in Libya, but I don't understand the mechanisms and all that. I am also, I would look, when you're looking at these people, sometimes they say, hey, we're not talking about this because something is happening on this front, and we don't want to, how should I put it? We don't want to put spoilers out there. We don't want to, we want to pretend we don't know what's going on or stuff like that. We want to act like, hey, we're keeping it on the down low. I don't know how to phrase it right now, but media does do that. They do, like, they won't talk about a talk. You'll notice right before a strike, they stop talking about a country. You're like, what's going on? They'll focus on a shooting. They'll focus on some other story. And then bam, it gets hit the next day. These kind of things happen, so I wouldn't put past them. Also, you may think this person is great on perspective and great on 3 topics, but there's one they just don't know. And if they just don't know that topic that well, the reason I do analogies with the Sith and the Imperial Remnant and the Palpatine and the new Palpatine, Mashtaba Snoke, is because I can't remember their names. I know Ghalibaf is not a great guy, but I don't know. He's like I don't know if he's the IRGC puppet or if he's the Durka puppet. I don't know who is the Durka puppet. I think he's the IRGC puppet, and they got a Durka puppet. I don't know who's the big guy on the Durka side. And the names. I would say in the American media specifically, the names just confuses us. And I think I'll end on that. I have one more point. I'll try to remember it later. But try to be understanding that don't give up on someone you liked for a long time just off one report. I'd go with that, because they might do something later that explains it, or they might do something later that just agrees with everything you wanted them to say before.
Yeah, so I completely agree with that. I mean, I agree that it happens sometimes, these things, but we cannot just say, like you're saying, they could just get things wrong. And it could, these things do happen, but the answer is we don't know. I just think that our analysis shouldn't lean on, oh, the people I like can't get things wrong, right? Like there must be another explanation. No, the explanation might be they got things wrong, and just allow them to get things wrong. It's okay. Not everybody has to be 100% all the time, and we should forgive them for that. All right.
Okay, final response is Jeffrey.
So with regards to Hezbollah and its first-person view drones that they're using to hold northern Israel at risk, not to step on Guy's toes, just to build off what he said. So the IDF's approaches are centered around a couple of key areas. He already mentioned nets. That's actually, the IDF rolled out about 158,000 square meters, so like 20 football fields, protective netting on vehicles, tanks, Humvees, and field positions. There's more on the way. Position hardening and tactical disciplines, so cages, cope cages, and barriers around outposts, better camouflage, dummy targets. Troops are spending more time in immediate local defense and constant eye on Skywatch. They also, you have AI rifle sights, so like smart shooter and smash systems. So it's like a camera plus a computer on your M4 that turns regular infantry into like drone killers with auto tracking. You have fragmentation ammo on shotgun like spread with their rounds to give you a better kill zone probability of kill. Active tech is ramping up, so you have interceptor drones like the Spear Viper, the IAI Iron Drone integrations. It's kind of like Iron Drone, it's like Iron Dome. Adaptive laser and electro-optical systems, so Raphael Dome Drone and Elbix Reed Drone. There's some of the things, mobile radar, long term, it's like decentralized edge defense, so sensors and shooters, per company instead of big centralized systems, a lot of it centering around things like directed energy, high energy lasers operating the ultra short pulse mode, whether they're solid state or fiber based, with on-site AI assisting in the OODA loop or kill chain via neuromorphic edge computing. That's to sit there and bring the cost and or production exchange ratio back in the defender's camp. Ukraine. So Ukraine is actually helped out. There is some issue. So Ukraine's ambassador has offered to increase coordination and assistance to their Israeli allies. Yeah, I'm going to butcher his name because, again, Ukraine's like almost all consonants. Italians speak almost all vowels. So Yevgen Kornichuk, recently said, I think, here's the quote: "We are fighting from another angle against the same axis of evil." This is very similar to the thematic elements that defined the, His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi's statement in Odessa, and it very much reflects the operational realities that define what's going on at a broader geopolitical and strategic level. So here's what he said: "We are fighting from another angle against the same axis of evil. Unfortunately, we do not see much additional interest or appetite from the Israeli leadership in this field. I often hear frustration that Israel is missing an opportunity to save more soldiers' lives." So why is that happening? It's politics, albeit not in the way most people think. Israel has to be careful with Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state when it comes to hostage and other interests. So Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state very much holds Jewish people in Russia hostage, de facto hostage, right? That was one of the main reasons for the split between the blue and white and Bibi's people and, Levin, back in the day. So like full cooperation with Kyiv is on sensitive drone tech, is they're like trying to find a way to juggle that. What's the bottom line? Hezbollah copied Ukraine and Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state's fiber optic FPV tactics almost one for one. That's competitive adaptation. IDF copied Ukrainian defensive adaptation. So nets, concealment, shoot with rifles mindset. Deeper Ukrainian help, experts, joint R&D, like specific counter FPV systems have been offered, and it's recommended by analysts. I'm one of them. It's not moved as fast yet because people are worried, like, well, Bibi's administration is worried what Putin will do to Jewish people in Russia.
By the way, Jeff, I asked people in the YouTube chat if they understand what you're saying, and it was mostly yes. So this is great. Made great progress. Most people said yes. Thank you. My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.